So Brenda says, so if the moral anti-realist doesn't like what I'm doing, I can just say, I don't care, right?
Right, but a realist could say the same thing too. There's not a whole lot. People will try to act like moral anti-realism carries with it certain types of normative implications, that a moral anti-realist is somehow compelled or obliged in virtue of being an anti-realist to take a certain stance towards the way that other people act or think or what they do. And it just doesn't. An anti-realist can basically do they could do anything meaningfully meaningful and substantive that a moral realist could do. So anti-realists can object to other people's actions. You know, people will sometimes say, if you're a moral anti-realist, you then I'm going to steal your wallet or give you, like, you get these stories. You know, moral realists like to tell these stories. You know, I had a student in my class that was a moral anti-realist, and I told them, fine, you know, you wrote your essay talking about moral anti-realism. Well, I'm going to give you an F. It's a great essay, but I'm giving you an F. And then as soon as the student objects, that shows they're a realist. No, it doesn't. It shows that they object to you giving them an F. So, like, anti-realism doesn't mean you don't have standard. Again, compare it to the food thing. If someone was a gastronomic anti-realist, could you serve them a bucket of garbage and then they just have to go, well, because I'm an anti-realist, there's no objective fact about what's food or good, food is good or bad. I have to be indifferent between different food. No, that's nonsense. Just because something is a subjective preference doesn't mean that it's irrelevant to you. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why realists seem to think that realism gives them some sort of dialectical or argumentative advantage in an interaction, that somehow the fact that something is an objective moral fact or a stance independent moral fact would be meaningful in these sorts of situations, but not if you're an anti-realist. I actually think it's not just that distinction is not true, but that only anti-realist conceptions of value make sense of these sorts of things for exactly the reasons that we initially talked about. Who cares if something's a moral fact if that fact isn't connected to your goals and interests and what you're trying to do? That's what when I go around making decisions and people present situations or scenarios where I have to make a decision, I am making decisions on the basis of what's going to further my goals and interests. And among those, there are my moral values. If one of the facts that someone's bringing up to me is that something is, it's a stance independent moral fact that I shouldn't do it, I don't care. And I don't understand why anyone else would care or claim to care. So I see the connection between what we do and our goals and values as like exhaustive. There's not really anything else that's driving what we do. And it seems like realists think that there's this extra stuff floating out in the universe that somehow ought to, I don't even know what they mean by ought to compel us to act in certain ways, independent of whether it would have anything to do with what we're trying to achieve.